Okay. Hi everyone. If you don't mind, I'm doing this without the microphone. It's challenging enough for me to speak in English. It was either Portuguese or English. We had about English, so at least some of you can understand. I'm a software developer working at Nuxeo, and I'm very excited to be here to talk to you guys about data visualization. So, starting at the beginning, why do we want to have some data visualization in Nuxeo? You have lots of interesting data just sitting right there. You have structured content, especially if you look at a platform like Nuxeo, where you do your own content modeling. You have your own vocabulary, your own semantics. Data is tailored to your business, not the other way around. So we wanted to really leverage this and give you something out of the box. And also, not only the data itself, but also all the processes, the workflows that you built. They were built for your business needs. They speak your language. And during stuff like workflow processing, we're always triggering events. So that's also data that we want to leverage. And the way users interact with the system, which kind of searches they do, and whether the login fails, stuff like this, is really valuable data that is sitting just right there. And we wanted to leverage this and make it available for those who need it whenever they needed it. So the simple answer to this was to build some nice dashboards. Everybody likes pretty charts and tables. So we wanted to provide something like this out of the box for you for free. We wanted to give you insights in your data. We wanted to help you with decision making, and we wanted this to be available on the platform right from the start. So you just download the LTS and you get some nice dashboards for you. So we started at the most obvious option. So we started looking at the content repository, the documents. So we now provide a default dashboard that gives you a small overview of what it looks like. Have a distribution per the document type. You can see the top 10 creators. You have some nice line charts around the documents modified per week, documents created per week, etc. And then we moved on to something that is kind of new, which is we're now able to track usage of search. So we can provide a very cool dashboard that shows you how users are using the search feature, which is one of the most used usage features in Nuxeo. That's why we brought in Elasticsearch to really make this scale. So you can see like which page provider people use the most. You can see a nice distribution per hour per day in terms of using search in Nuxeo. So all this is valuable data for you to perhaps kind of scale the application you need and determine in terms of cloud hosting what you need. And then we moved to workflows, like I said before. So we focused on the two default dashboards, two default workflows that we provide in Nuxeo out of the box, the parallel review and the serial review. So you now have some good insight about the average workflow duration. You have information about who started the workflow. You can see the number of actions that users are triggering. You have the review types, you have average specification per user. So you can really start playing with this data and make it and give you more insights about what's happening. The thing is, this only starts to become really interesting when you start building these things for your needs. We wanted you to be available to build dashboards that spoke directly to you with your vocabularies, with your semantics, bringing really great business value. So we started by playing around with one of the sandbox applications that we built when we were working on the workflow REST API. It's called Travel Expenses. It's a very simple workflow. People just submit an expense. An expense has an amount, has a department, stuff like that, some custom fields. Then someone comes in and can either accept or reject this expense. And then finally, accountancy has a code and it's validated and workflow is done. We also built an application at the time, which basically just leveraged the REST API. That was the whole purpose of the application. So it's basically just HTML, JavaScript, CSS. It's doing REST API calls, and it allows you to interact with our workflow engine. So we wanted to see how we would go about and build a dashboard for this. And this is where it starts to get interesting, because all of a sudden, you can really leverage the custom variables that you use in one workflow. Stuff like the amount. You can see total amount aggregated per requester. You can see aggregations per department. So this is where the value of data visualization really starts to shine. We did not want to build some tools for data exploration because there are great tools out there already. We wanted to make it easy for people to build dashboards. So we started trying to build some ourselves and see what challenges we have to make it easy to tackle. Another example in terms of data in our content repository, this is all around a sample insurance company that kind of registers claim. This is one of the demos, case management demos that the pre-sales team normally uses to show off what you can do. So this is a dashboard that just speaks the language. You can see distribution per incident type. You can have some nice stream maps interactive with all. You can have geographical charts. You see like prepaid amount with data topology. So it's really speaking to you And the goal is for someone to just come in and be able to have a nice overview with a nice insight on what's happening in terms of content. So now the technical part of this, we basically had everything we needed to make this happen. As you all know, we've been leveraging more and more Elasticsearch. We leverage it for indexing into documents, so it's all synchronized. And we now also leverage it in terms of other things. So all the events that happen in the platform, they're all right now just stored in Elasticsearch, waiting to be harvested. And there's really some good insights in that data that you can start leveraging. And with the added pass-through, and with the fact that we now have like security policies so you can control who has access to what, we just put 2 + 2 together, and it was really easy to build these dashboards. We have something that is secure, scalable, has a very high performance, and most of all, we wanted to leverage this part. We have a very cool JSON-based domain-specific language to build queries in Elasticsearch. It's really powerful, and the most amazing thing of it is that it allows you to compute metrics, it allows you to do computations over your data, which we couldn't do before. But the thing is, we built these dashboards ourselves. It wasn't very difficult for us to build them, but we kind of take pride on being able to provide you the tools and making your job easier, because Nuxeo is tailored for developers. We want people to make the platform their own. We're not just focusing on providing something out of the box that you have to adjust to. We want to adjust the platform to your business needs, not the other way around. So we started thinking, so how can we make this easier for people to build the dashboards? And we started looking at how we did it ourselves. So we looked at the JSON queries that we produced to build this dashboard that I showed before, this and some others, and we kind of identified a common structure. And we try to, name things. It's one of the most difficult parts in our job is trying to come up with cool names for things, but we started there. We identified that most queries just have a couple of terms. You're basically just filtering records that you want to process, and then you're doing a couple of nested aggregations, and in the end, the leaf node could be a metric. So we kind of name things that we call the filter by just terms. Then you can group this data by something. This is just generic terms aggregation, Elasticsearch. And then you normally want, these are all optional, but you might want to do some data histogram. You might want to aggregate per day, per week, per month, something like that. Or you might want to aggregate by range. Aggregate this by all the expenses that are less than 1,500 and more than 1,500. So this is the sort of thing that we identified that is the most useful. And in terms of metrics, you can basically use whatever metrics that Elasticsearch reports. You have like sums and amounts, averages. You have all those that you can really leverage. So once we gave names to these things, we want to come up with a very simple way for you to build these charts. We basically wanted to come up with a tag. I'm calling it a tag. I'm not talking about the JSF tag. We wanted to come up with an HTML tag that allowed you to place this on a page and you get this data. I'm going to get back to this later. I'm going to talk about web components later on and Nuxeo elements. So for now, you have to trust me that this would produce a chart like this. And what we wanted to do was to have something like this. So we wanted to move from this JSON. We wanted to kind of hide it and make it possible for you to just use a tag like this to get the data that you need. So as you can see, we kind of came up with 3 different tags. We have a tag to get workflow data. We have a tag to get back to search data. And we have a tag to get repository data. And all the concepts that we named before that I showed you are basically attributes here. So we have some custom attributes for each one of these elements, which are basically just filtering attributes. So you can filter by workflow, you can filter by task, and then you have all of those that I just told you before. You have grouped by, in this case, I'm grouping by task actor, and then I want to have data intervals by day, so I'm then aggregating by day. Then my metrics would be the sum of the amount, which is the workflow variable, and then we added some useful filters like start date and end date, which you normally want to have in the dashboard. And the coolest part of this is this last attribute called data, which I'm going to be telling you after. This is how you get this data out of the element through data binding. And once you have this, you basically have a variable that is available for you. You can plug it in to some third-party element and just leverage this data to produce a chart like that. So this plus this would equal this. Okay, this is what we actually have in the travel expenses example. So this is just again a small overview of the attributes that I showed you. This would be like a base class if you're doing programming, Java programming. This would be like the abstract base class for all the other elements. These are like the shared attributes. Then for each of these, we came up with some useful filtering attributes like workflow task event for the workflow data, ECM parameter type, ECM lifecycle state, ECM mixing type for repository data, and just page provider for the search data element. So I told you before that I wanted to stop right there, not dwell into the whole, okay, this is an HTML tag thing, because I wanted to have a chance to talk about Nuxeo elements. If you've been reading our blog post, and I'm sure all of you are regularly, we've been really studying Polymer and web components. And basically it's all about trying to take our UI framework to the client. If you look at our current UI, this is what we have right now. This is, I mean, at least the default UI that we provide out of the box. It's all built on top of GSF. Then you have facelets or some nice XHTML development language. Then you have a layer with our custom tags, etc. And then we have a default UI that we provide out of the box. But our goal is not to enforce that UI to you. That's why we make it really simple, configurable, and playable through Studio. You can leverage these concepts in our meta model, and our engine produces the final layout. But we wanted to decouple this even more. We have customers, and we like to hear to our customers, and they're always saying, well, but I just want to build my application. I want to have full control of it. I mean, it's possible. You can start from scratch and just rewriting all the XHTML, etc., and build beans. But most of them, they really want to use any given JavaScript framework, you know? You want to leverage HTML, CSS, because they have a team that knows this very well. You want to leverage this and build a full custom UI. But they still want to use Studio to do customization, to do topic modeling, and they still want support. So this is a challenge for us, and we do want to address. So what we envision, what we're trying to do, is to come up with a set of Nuxeo elements, which would be like building blocks for building UI, and these would be the tags that I mentioned before. And these elements would just leverage the work we've been doing and the Nuxeo service layer, mostly the REST API. And then on top of these building blocks, we would build our default UI. What this would mean is that you'd be able to take these elements with you, if you wanted, to build your own web UI. So we're kind of moving from having this big UI, which was really configurable and pluggable, to having something that is composable. So we provide building blocks, which we leverage ourselves to build our own UI, but you can also leverage them and take them with you. When I say take them with you, it means you can easily take one of the widgets and use them in a website you have, in a blog, in an intranet. And you can also leverage, I mean, you can build hybrid mobile application, you can build hybrid desktop application. So it's basically just leveraging what we have. We still have our meta model, but still trying to think about this differently, making it easy for you to fully customize the UI. So when we're looking for something like this, we run into web components. Web components is really cool because it's a standard. It's kind of still new, but it basically revolves around 4 different technologies, 4 different specs. In no particular order, we have HTML imports, which basically make it very easy for you to reference a bundle being a set of HTML, JavaScript, CSS files. So if somebody wanted to import any out of our widgets, our elements, they wouldn't have to import the JavaScript and HTML, and then a couple of CSS files. They would just reference an HTML, would get the whole bundle. Makes it really easy to deploy these elements. Then we have the Shadow DOM, which it's still not there. Some problems support it. It's kind of a struggle, but this is still very cool because it guarantees isolation. So you wouldn't have issues with having polluting the global JavaScript namespace or having style name clashes, because each element is like this black box, and your CSS won't cross this border. So it's very cool. Then we have HTML templates, which make it declarative. This means that even when you're building elements, you can leverage HTML. It's really easy to understand. Everybody knows HTML. And for us, the cherry of the cake would be custom elements, because all of a sudden you have custom tags. What this means is that you can finally extend the vocabulary of HTML. Before we just had like a couple of HTML tags, and there was no way for you to extend it. You had like a framework like jQuery that tried to do this, some sort. You have directives in Angular, but this is something that the browser will provide for you for free. So what this means is you have, these are really simple concepts to learn. Like I said, everybody knows HTML. You have powerful tooling around this. It's interoperable, it's reusable, and most of all, it's a standard. There's no lock-in. We're not like committing to a given framework. We're trying to build something around the standard components, which you can then leverage with any framework you want. Want to use AngularJS, you can. Want to use use React, you can. So this is what we want to do. We do not want to make a commitment to any given framework. So all of a sudden, we can have our cool tags that those who've done JSF programming with Nuxeo know that now we can have these on the client side or whatever we want. Also, one of the cool things about this is that there's kind of a whole ecosystem being built around this. So you start having these nice catalogs of third-party elements that you can just leverage to build your own UI. So after we were sold on the whole web components thing, okay, let's do this, we started looking at ways to help us build this, what was there that would make our job easier. So we ran into the Polymer framework. There are some others, Mozilla, Xstack, and others. But we really like Polymer because it's just there to help you. There's no, it just basically just removes boilerplate, so you have to write less code. And it kind of adds some elegance to the whole process. There are several things you have to deal with when you're building web component, and it kind of makes it simpler. And one of the coolest ones is data binding. Data binding is what allows us to have the data attribute that I showed you before. It provides you the concept of data flow between the elements. And this is really important. This is something we need. And another cool thing that comes from this is that once you have data binding, once you have an element from which you can get data, means that you can have pure data elements. These elements do not need to be UI, they don't need to be visual. So you can have elements for, I'm going to show you just after. So it really plays well with one of the mantras with the Polymer project where everything is an element. So if you look at the catalog, especially they kind of group their elements, give them cool names. If you look at Iron Elements, for example, they have one called Iron Ajax. And what they basically do is allow you to do an Ajax call by using an HTML tag. So very simple concept, but it really leverages this whole data binding thing and makes it very declarative. And the cool thing of being declarative is that it's very easy for both us and the machine to read. This makes our job easier. We can provide better tooling, we can provide a designer, we can help you migrate. If you went through the whole JSF1 to JSF2 migration, you must know it was only possible because it was XML, so we were able to parse it and process it. So this is important for us. And we also get this whole catalog of elements for free. These are built by the Polymer team. Polymer is built by Google, so they have lots of good engineers working on this. And you have these Iron elements, you have paper elements, which are really cool. They're basically an implementation of the material design concept that Google has been selling and pushing for Android. You have stuff to interact with Google APIs, you have stuff to help you build e-commerce applications. So lots of cool stuff, animations, and lots of wrappers for third-party libraries. So it's very cool just being able to leverage those. So once we were, again, sold on the whole idea of web components and, okay, Polymer is cool, we can have data binding, and we kind of, the whole everything is an element metric kind of clicked with us too. We wanted to start by exactly focusing on these pure data elements, non-UI. Because at this point, we do not want to make a commitment to any UI framework, nor do we want to enforce one on you. So we see this as basically the glue for these building blocks that we want to build. This is what allows us to interact with our services, both the REST API, the Mission API, etc. So we started with the simplest one, Nuxeo connection. This is like the key element in any of the applications that we've been building. This is just a singleton that's wrapping a Nuxeo.js client. So once you declare this, all the elements on the page will share this connection. All requests will go to this connection. It's our way to kind of make the whole thing, elements know where the server is. You basically just specify URL and you're done. Nuxeo resources is to interact with the REST endpoints. Again, very simple set of attributes. You can set up specify the back, the resource, you can add a couple of parameters, and then again, to data binding, you can get back the response. One of the cool attributes that we also added is this auto. What this auto attribute does is really cool because it means that once the connection is established, it will fire events, and all the elements that have this attribute set will do the request only then. So you can kind of control when things happen. And not only that, but if you use data binding, because I'm not going to go into any details, I have lots of documentation and you can read afterwards, but if you use data binding to kind of build a path based on an input text, or you want to have an input text here where somebody does something, you want to change the parameters, if you do this sort of thing to data binding, once this attribute changes, since you have the auto attribute set, the request will be retriggered. So it makes it really simple, no JavaScript code to come up with simple applications. Then we did the same thing for stuff like Nuxeo document, which is basically just extending Nuxeo resource. We did the same thing for operations. We have a Nuxeo page provider, how to specify query, get back data. So these are the elements that we're starting to work with, and we've been using this to build several applications. You've seen this one today. It's the new commission tab. It's built with Polymer. So I'm using the elements I showed you before. The travel expenses example I showed you already. It's also built on this. And this is the Salesforce connecting. You also saw this morning. All of these are leveraging the elements that I showed you before, our core Nuxeo elements at this point, plus the paper elements by Google, the Iron elements, all third-party elements. And so what we wanted to do was kind of keep the whole development process open. We are open source, and we'd really love to have input from you. We really wanted to try, so we've been pushing to have some nice documentation. This is generated from the source code, so it should be kept up to date. It's on GitHub. We have some quick starters that kind of introduce you to stuff like Yeoman, which allows you to bootstrap an application really quickly, Polymer, Gold, Run, etc. So it's our way to kind of try to bring you in and experiment with this as well. We'd really love to get your feedback on this. And just to summing up, going back to the data visualization topic, this is what we have at this point. We have the JS client, which we'll be talking right afterwards, and then we have Nuxeo elements, which will be this set of building blocks. And now we have also some data viz elements, which again are just pure data elements. And then you can leverage whatever you want. You can leverage in Sharp elements. We're leveraging Sharp.js, leveraging Sharp elements. We also have some examples. This one is leveraging the Google Sharps. Again, there's already a web component build, so we're just basically using third-party elements put together, and we can easily build dashboards. So I hope you're as excited as we are about this. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Too fast? Yeah. My French isn't good either, so.
Is Nuxeo able to look for data? It has to produce dashboards on Dropbox or Google Drive.
So I didn't get it.
Okay. Do it again.
Can you try? You can try in French. I can try to listen.
I wonder if Nuxeo is able to look for data to build dashboards on Dropbox or Google Drive.
Make the dashboards available on Dropbox and Google Drive.
Then for that is to take data from out of the Nuxeo.
At this point, no. At this point, the only thing we're leveraging is what is stored in Elasticsearch. So we do index the documents, so you can do that. If you use Live Connect, the documents will be indexed just like any other document. So this data will end up in the Nuxeo index Elasticsearch. I guess the answer to your question, the right answer would be yes. You can, even if the documents are on Google Drive, since they are indexed, you will have this information in Elasticsearch, and so you can build dashboards about that. As long as you somehow Nuxeo is aware of your documents, you have to add them to Live Connect. No? So thank you.